In this video we're going to be looking at SEKO's LS100 Venturi dosing system for laundries. Being a Venturi system, it has no actual chemical dosing pumps. It's water driven, so that is something to bear in mind because you will need a minimum pressure of 1.5 bar for the chemical activation to take place. Now the laundry system can pump up to 10 chemicals with the addition of an additional box, and it can actually supply 4 different washer extractors. So let's have a look at a typical system. This is set up now for 4 washer extractors. Obviously for the point of this video we've laid it out on one panel, but these items can be placed in any suitable position in the laundry. Just to run through the system, we have one CAN bus 4-core cable which links all of the elements on the system, as we call the peripherals. So in this case it would be a low-level alarm module going up to your signal interfaces, and then with the addition of the optional formula selectors which plug directly into the signal interfaces, and we'll be looking at the signals and the connections a little bit later in the video. For the installation of the systems, in the kit we have a wall bracket with a nice little spirit level to make sure you get everything level. That simply screws to the wall and the main unit plugs onto that. If you have a distribution box, that's also supplied with a very similar bracket. The trigger interfaces, again, are mounted on a bracket with 4 securing points, so it makes it very robust. And the formula selectors, if you have them, are mounted in a little cradle which can be either stuck or screwed to the actual washing machine. They're also fitted with a magnet, which is particular to this unit, so it can just be stuck onto the front of the washing machine. Now, to cover the installation, we have supplied a kit with a water inlet module. Now this comes as standard with a bayonet fitting, a 6 to 8 mil tubing, but for a lot of applications they prefer to use an appliance T, which we also supply in the kit, which simply plugs in and is fixed with the fork. Now they also supply the chemical inlet valve separately as part of the kit. The reason for this is if you've struggled like me in the past pushing tubing onto connectors which are already captive, you can break them and it's quite a fiddly, difficult job. When we look inside the unit, you'll see that there are large entries for the chemical inlet tubing, and it can be connected very, very easily. So let's have a look inside the system now. Now for the purposes of this video, I've actually removed the protective cover just so you can see the wiring connections. So in here we have the mains connection, and the only other wiring you would need to do is the origin of the CAN bus connection, which is this one. This would then link to the distributor box, which I've also opened to show you, connected there, and then the outlet from there will then go to the other peripherals of the in and out, and we'll look at the internals of the signal interfaces a little bit later on. Just to go through the unit, so the water module is fixed to the side, again with one of the little forks to locate that in position, and then we have the chemical inlet valves on here. You can see there's already one captive, but to fix your tubes, simply remove that, push the tubing on, fit it through the block, back into the housing, and then secure with the clip. And that would be the same for all of your kit inlets. Now this is a 6 chemical unit. We also supply this in a 4, but with the addition of an additional chemical box, we can actually take this up to 10 products in total. This unit is the distribution box, and as you can see here, we have 4 valves going out to 4 machines. The connection between the 2 is just a simple tubing connection up to here, and as we've already mentioned, the CAN bus cable on here. So one of the key features on the LS100 is the flow meter. Now the standard unit is fitted with 1 flow meter which measures the incoming water. So if there's any problems with the water supply, then you'll be issued with an alarm. As an optional extra, we can have a secondary flow meter on the unit which measures the chemical and water leaving the unit. So it can give you the additional alarms that if there's any problems with the supply of chemical, if there's reduced flow rates, and it also negates the need to calibrate the unit because it's measuring the chemical as it leaves the unit. People find that quite a useful function. So taking away from the unit and the distributor box, we then move on to a low-level alarm, which is another optional extra. And if I just open this up for you, this is just where we wire the suction lances into. and there's little LEDs which give you an alarm when you run out of chemical. You'll also get a notification through the system because on this one with the advanced flow meter, it'll realise there's no chemical coming through. Now if we take a look at the signal interface, these would normally be fitted behind the washing machines or in a suitable location, and if we just use the little quarter turn screws on here, we can see the inputs. These are for your signals, and this is the CAN bus in and out. Doesn't matter which way round we have these, as long as we have an in and an out going to the next device. So once we've completed all of our wiring and everything's in the CAN bus system, we have to turn on the power and configure the system to identify all of the items. So if we turn the power on, switch on the side, you'll see all of the peripherals are now flashing. And on the touch LED screen, we'll see no devices detected and the number of items that are be configured on the system. So we're currently sitting at 11. That would be the 4 signal interfaces, the 4 formula selectors, the level alarm box, and the 2 main units. Now, configuration is very, very straightforward. You can do it with a little micro switch in here, but if you have the cover already fitted, you can simply press and hold one of the valve buttons, and you can see the light's now gone green. You can do the same in the distributor box. You'll hear a little beep, and that'll go green and steady again. We can see in the low level alarm by pressing the switch internally, that's now gone green. In regards to the signal and trigger interfaces, these need to be done in a specific order to match your machines. So this would be machine number 1, machine number 2, machine number 3, and machine number 4. With the optional formula selectors, it doesn't matter because they're actually connected to the specific trigger interface, and to allocate those, we simply press those buttons. You'll see on the display now, we only have one new device detected, and that's the last formula selector. And once we press that, the system's up and running. So as we've mentioned, there's very little maintenance with the LS100, but there are some things to check periodically. The filter on the water inlet can be removed and cleaned. Simply unscrewing that and just giving it a wash around in some water to get rid of some debris that may have accumulated in there. If you have an issue with any of the chemical suction, if you notice your flow rates dropping or you're receiving alarms, you can remove the check valve, and again that can just be flushed in some hot water. The only other part to check if you do have a low chemical flow would be one of the check valves. Now in here they're fixed with quarter turn fittings, which can be rotated and the check valve removed. We can see in there the Venturi inlet, which can become blocked if you have a product which is prone to clogging or becomes quite viscous and sticky. Just simply flush these again through with some hot water, and then you can replace in the system in the same way. So as we mentioned previously, the advanced version of the system does have 2 flow meters, which means you don't have to calibrate the chemicals. Now you can still do this process for statistical analysis and for the flow. So we'll just go through this procedure quickly on the system. So again, by entering the menu on the touch screen, we can go to the calibrations menu. We can select a chemical and we can start the calibration process. When we stop, we can enter the calibration figure and move on to the next chemical. You can also prime in this menu, and you can also flush the system through to get rid of any residual chemical so you can move on to the next one. Calibrations should always be done on the suction side of the system, because coming out of the system we're actually measuring chemical and water, so you're going to get a very, very higher flow rate through there. So a graduated container on the suction side, run it for an estimated 10 or 15 seconds, and then enter your value of how much chemical you've actually used from the jug. Traditionally, the only way you would be notified if you're running out of chemical is to use a suction device with a low-level float, which actually drops when the chemical reaches a certain level, and when connected to a low-level alarm module will indicate that you're running out of chemical. Now, these work very well, but obviously it is additional cost to have the level module and the suction devices with the floats. So another useful function on the LS100 is a depletion alarm. Because we're measuring the chemical as it leaves the unit, we have a graphic and a function called the depletion alarm. So if we go to the system and go into the tanks menu, we can preset our tank sizes on the app. And as you can see here, as the chemicals used, the graphic drops. When you are notified of an alarm, simply click on the relevant chemical. You can increase the percentage and confirm and restore the graphic.